I'm on video, of course. This would be that's a silly thing to tell you. You can tell I'm on video. This happened very accidentally, and I did it, and I'm so happy that I did it. This program is fantastic, and it all happened when my dear friend Rhoda and my nurse, of course she's my nurse, but she is such a, oh, she's fantastic. Whenever she hears of something, she'll say, Catherine, let's try that. And I'll go, you think we could? And she'll say, I'll talk to Dr. McAloon, and I'm sure he'll say yes. And I said, okay. That's how I got on these dumb steroids. You know, half of the time I'm hyper, the other half I'm sleeping, for crying out loud. But anyway, they didn't let me sleep this afternoon. I have 2 young people here that are making this video. They're cute. Both of them are cute. And then I have a luscious blonde here that's going to take the place of Lance. Isn't that quite a name, Lance? His mother was really ahead of time because he's 70 years old, for crying out loud. And who was naming their kids Lance 70 years ago? Someone that went to a movie a lot, just like Georgie. By the way, Georgie's my daughter, and she named her son Rhett. Guess where she got that from? Anyway, this was going to be a surprise for you, and I hope that it is a surprise. I don't know if I'll keep it until I shove off, or if I'll give it to you before. It all depends upon how I feel. I was going to wear this dress to Kristen's wedding, because, as you know, I didn't get to Rhett's wedding. I don't know why he didn't get married, but anyway. And of course, the dress has never been worn, and he's, and I thought, doggone it, I paid $70 for the thing. I may as well get some wear out of it. So here I am. And then, of course, I have to get this jewelry to Shar because she wants to wear it for the wedding. And so long as I'm not going to wear it again, she may as well have it. I want to thank all of you. You've been good kids. And I hope I don't start getting weepy at this stage of the game, because I've never been the weepy type. But as it gets closer, yeah, I feel a little bit more weepy than I used to. But I love you all. I had a great time while you were growing up. We lived in the perfect house at the perfect site, with the beach right across the street from us, and the ice skating and the hot cocoa, and it was just great. And I thank all of you for that, because you were great kids. Of course, I was a pretty good mother, too. Well, not always, but most of the time. And at least I took you to Lake Danoon. Dad was out at the races. I took you to State Fair Park for the rides. Dad was over at the tavern. And now, I'm not saying this to run down Dad, because he was a good guy. He really was. I'm just happy that I had all this time with you. It was a great, great life. I had a great childhood. Yeah, I lived in a, being that we were Italian, and the only Italians in the block, we had to win the people over, because they wouldn't accept us as easily as they accepted the others. But you know, with Noni, she was a beautiful lady. She was probably my best friend, plus being my mother. But she won people over. My father would send them out. My mother would win them over. And yeah, he was tough. And he wasn't easy. But he was what he was because he didn't have an education. He didn't know any better. And finally, when I grew up, I realized that, yes, he did just what his father did. He didn't know any better. So I forgave him because why not? We're all going to have to be forgiven at one time or another. What else did they ask me to talk about? My childhood again, yes. And that's where I'm at. Yeah, it was a good childhood. We had, because we lived out in the suburbs, we had all those big pipes that they were laying down to get water to us. So we had just a great time. And then, of course, as I became a teenager, then I'd go to the sock hops, or we didn't call them sock hops at the time, but you guys called them sock hops. And we'd go to the church, and they'd have a dance. Fortunately, we were Catholics, so that we could dance. Not all religions can dance, but and then that carried through to my adulthood, as you know. I never had boyfriends. I don't know why, because I didn't ever really, until your father came along, I really didn't date a great deal. I don't miss it. That's why I never had a date after Dad died. Who needs a date? I got married because I wanted children. I have to tell you the truth. And I had my 3 children. And that, oh, I liked your father. Don't think I didn't. I mean, you know, he was far more handsome than I am attractive. But I don't know. I don't particularly like dating. But I liked being with company. So we always had a gang of people. We always had fun. I hope you didn't miss too much. We didn't always have very much financially, but we had fun. And that's all it was. And we were together. And I'm suddenly getting a headache. Maybe it's because I'm talking too much. And no, I don't want to stop, no. But I will go on, and then, oh, now comes when I met Father. We lived in a bar and grill, of course. And I shouldn't say of course, that wasn't a normal way of living. But we had our private quarters. And I maybe it's because I saw so much what was going around when I was growing up. And I thought, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to live like this. And I don't know. And of course, having my father beating up on my mother, that wasn't good. So I never, ever, if you remember, I never answered Dad back. I know he would not have hit me, but I wasn't taking the chance. When Dad walked into the bar one night, I thought, wow, what a good-looking guy. And, of course, as you know, he was a darn good-looking guy. Another Clark Gable, as Georgie would say. And maybe that's why she named her son Rhett, because she enjoyed Clark Gable so much in that picture. And he looked so much like Dad that she decided, I'm going to name my son Rhett. That's a good idea. I never thought of that, Georgie. But is there enough time? Oh, because I don't want to go over my time limit.
Yeah, we have 2 hours on the tape, so.
Okay. You give me the signal when I have to. Okay. Anyway, when I saw him come in, I thought, whoo, that's the best thing I've seen come in here in years. And of course, being the daughter, I had to earn my keep. So, on Fridays, Saturdays, I had to wait on tables because we served food. And on Sundays, I had to play the piano accordion in a band because I was given lessons, and that was the sole purpose for me to be given those lessons so that I could help out. If you know, Chuck never helped. And he ended up with the tambourine. Oh, well, I'm glad. Who needed the tambourine? But it was a learning experience, definitely a learning experience. And it was something that maybe that's why I never really was crazy about going out with anybody. Because I used to see these men come in with these women, and I knew that they weren't their wives. So I figured every man must do that. I have found out since, no, every man doesn't do that. I also found out that if you show love for one another, it'll hang in there. But you have to make sure that you show love for one another. Anyway, when Dad asked me for a date, I said to him, "Are you married?" I said, "No." Well, he said, "I have 5 kids, but I'm not married." 5 kids. I said, "Well, then I don't want to date you." And really, I hadn't dated. Yeah, no, I had a couple dates with some guys, but I didn't care for them, so. And then he said, "No, I'm not married." He said, "But I live in Appleton." And living in Milwaukee and his living in Appleton, anything could be right. Maybe he was telling the truth, maybe he wasn't. So, so he did the next best thing. He started going to church with me. And of course, that won me over. I figure if he's going to go to church with me, he must be pretty good. Of course, after we were married, he didn't go to church with me, but up until that time, he was going to church with me. And then when we were married, of course, and before we were married, he took me to Appleton to visit the family. I should have known then, you better steer clear of him. That family was nuts. But I got to enjoy them. And I made friends with my sister-in-laws, and they, to this day, we're still very close, and that's great. Of course, his mother and dad were weird, but they didn't know any better either. At that time, everybody was weird. And then I think after we had our first baby, which was you, Shar, oh, you were such a precious thing. Oh, you were gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. You're still gorgeous. So, luckily you take after your father. Oh, well. Georgie isn't bad, even though she looks like me. But, and poor Douglas, where did he come in? I don't know who he looks like. Ah, I know who he looks like, Uncle Chuck. And he probably shoots the same bull as Uncle Chuck does, too. But he means well, he really does. I used to think that I could talk and talk and talk, but I can't. I lose my train of thought. And I think, I wonder if I'm sounding foolish. Am I sounding foolish?
No.
Okay, they said no. Of course, they're paid to do this, you know. No, they're not. They're all volunteers, and they're wonderful. And I have to say this is one of the best programs that they could ever have put on. They have been there for me all the time. And I am so grateful for them, to them, for it. I had 51 years of good marriage. Oh no, it wasn't always good. How can one marriage be good all the time? It isn't always good. But if you hang in there, it'll be good. Because as you get older, you get to know one another better. In fact, you get to know one another so well at times, they don't have to say anything. You know exactly what they want to say. I know, I remember looking at Dad, and I'd say, "What?" And he'd kind of grin, his sheepish grin, and he'd finally tell me what he wanted to tell me. And I always knew there was something, but it's just living together. And when I came home from church the morning that he died, and I found him on the floor, all I could do was look at him and say, "Oh, Vince," because there was 51 years of my life passing through. And sure enough, about a year later, my sicknesses started coming on. First, the breast cancer. Then it metastasized to the liver. And Doug said to me, "Mom, you never drank that much." I said, "Douglas, I don't have cirrhosis of the liver, I have cancer." And he said, "Oh, there's a difference." I said, I think so. Anyway, that was 5 years of chemotherapy. Oh, that was my first chemotherapy. As you remember, I was so sick. Oh, God, I was sick. But then I got accustomed to it, and it wasn't as bad. Or they changed the formula. That's what they did. They changed the formula. And it wasn't so bad. I could put up with it. And now that I'm with hospice, they watch my medication very closely. I take steroids, and I'm hungry all the time. I eat and I eat and I eat. And there was a time in January and February, as you know, I couldn't stand. "Go away, we don't want any." But anyway, there was a time in January and February. Who's that?
It's Rhoda.
Oh, Rhoda. Rhoda, you have to come and meet my people.
I'm going to pause this real quick.
Oh, that's okay. Oh, no. I'm
I
sorry.
was talking about Rhoda. Rhoda came in. She always has to make these grand entrances, for crying out loud. Anyway, she came in and she had to give me a shot Friday morning, so she came before I went to Mass in the morning, and she gave me the shot, 8:30 in the morning. Can you imagine anybody doing that? And she also brought me a cylinder of Pringles, right? Pringles? Because she heard, now listen to this, she heard that I had eaten a whole thing of Pringles one day after lunch. In fact, after lunch. It wasn't even my lunch, it was after lunch. And I thought, oh, I'll have a couple of Pringles. And I sat down and ate, and I read the paper. I read a book. And while I'm reading the book, I'm eating Pringles. I knew I was eating Pringles. Deep down, I knew I was eating them. And I kept on saying to myself, you should stop now. Oh, yeah, oh, just one more. Well, before you knew it, I was at the bottom of the cylinder. And I thought, you pig. So you know what I did? I was going to go for a walk. And I thought, no, that's too much like work. I'm not going to go for a walk. So I decided, well, if I'm not going to go for a walk, I have to do something. I can't just sit on my butt. So I went out and I washed the patio furniture. You know, that great patio that I have. Anyway, I washed the patio furniture and I washed all the what do you call those things? The top of the porch here, the walkway. I washed all the poop off of that. And while I was at it, I thought, well, so long as I've washed mine, and I'm hurting like crazy anyway, I'll go and do Jenny's. Jenny doesn't feel well, so I went and did Jenny's, but I left her know so that she could say, yes, I saw it. But anyway, and I felt better about it then. Then I could go for a nap, because I have to have a nap. In fact, I don't know why I'm not sleeping right now. Only because I have this will to talk to you. It's my last chance. And I have to tell you that whether it's my last chance or regardless of how many chances I'd get, I could never thank you enough, because you've been great. Oh, not all the time. You had your moments. Georgie had her moments with Frank where she'd be so nasty to him, poor Frank. And then there were times, sure, you didn't get nasty to Bob until you divorced him, for crying out loud. And then you weren't even nasty. Doug, I don't know your situation at all, so I'm not going to go into that at all. How long is this tape?
Probably,
45 minutes? Couple hours?
yeah, there's 2 hours on the
Oh my God. I couldn't possibly talk 2 hours. Anyway, let me see if there's anything that I want to tell you that I've forgotten. Do you think I've forgotten childhood, adolescence? No, I haven't forgotten that. General. What's general? I was happy to have Noni as my mother. She was the best thing that ever happened to me. And she'll always be the best thing that ever happened to me. You children are very important, of course. But my mother was there for me all the time. All the time. She never picked apart the little things that I did. She was just loving and gentle, and she'd be waiting for me when I was going out with Dad, and we'd sit and we'd talk about my date. And that's a great way to be with your mother, because where else do they really listen and want to listen? So I wish that I could have done this with, I know I did it with Shar. I used to wait and we'd talk. And, but Georgie was always staying out late. I'd say 12 o'clock curfew. Sure. 1 o'clock came around and I'd be waiting on the Davenport. Sometimes 1:30 came along. And then I'd start, where have you been? You know. But that's Georgie. That's our Georgie. If she were different, she just wouldn't be Georgie. Shar, I think you'd probably be labeled a wimp, but not from me. Never from me. You were never a wimp. You were a great daughter. You came home when I said, don't forget, 12 o'clock curfew. In fact, I remember one time when you were at the sock hop on a Friday night, and you called, and you said, Mother, I can't remember where you guys went to eat after the sock hops, but you said that you had just ordered, but it was getting late, and she knew that she had to take a bus home. And she said to me, do you want me to take the bus instead of waiting for my food? And I said, yes, please do. Please cancel, and then just come home, would you? And she said, sure. And she did. Now that was commendable. But then she was always my easiest kid. I had two others that sometimes I'd think, But at least the first one was always very easy. We had some great times at Lake Noon. Catherine always said to me, if it weren't for you, I would never, ever take my children anywhere, because they didn't have a car. I mean, they had a car, but Wally was in the tavern all the time. And he didn't have just one tavern. He made the rounds. Of course, he died very horribly. And I know it's from drinking. I know it was from drinking. So does Catherine. But yesterday, I went to a senior citizen concert. And it was a great concert. It was free, but it was a great concert anyway. Many of them are Canadians. Those Canadians are great. Lance, that is here, is Canadian. And he comes in from Canada, and he volunteers his time with hospice. That's wonderful. And I've met a great many great Canadians. In fact, yesterday, one of the songs that they played was My Canada, Is That It? Yeah. First it was a Star Spangled Banner, then it was My Canada. So we know how important they are to us as friends and as countrymen. But I think they're getting a little antsy because I'm talking so loud. But no. Yeah. The young man says no, but he has to say that, I guess. But it isn't going to be much longer, so all I want to say is I'm glad that I had this opportunity. I'm glad that I had the opportunity to wear the dress, for crying out loud. And too bad it won't fit anybody. You girls had to be taller and you had to have a little bit more weight. Well, too bad, so sad. But that's it. So I love you, and I really, really love you. And I hope that I never gave the impression that I didn't. Oh, I may have. I remember when you kids would come in from the ice skating rink, and you'd take your things off and just throw them. And I'd see them all over the furniture, and I'd think, what? They don't know how to hang up clothes. So I'd take all of the clothes, if you remember, and I'd throw them in the middle of the room. And all of you would look at me like, what's with her? But I remember those things. Oh, I was kind of a, yeah. But mostly, I love you. And that's the whole gist of this videotape, to let you know one more time. Thank you.